welcome to our colloquium today on fostering synergy, combining science and art to communicate with the public, and lessons from the project Vamos Symbiosis. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Professor Dr. Annika Guse and Dr. Stephanie Guse, who will be sharing insights from their interdisciplinary project that aims to bridge the gap between science and society. The project utilized science-inspired artwork to emotionally connect with people and encourage action in preserving the Mediterranean Sea. They communicate the importance of healthy ecosystems in combating climate change, maintaining well-being, and ensuring economic stability. Today, specifically, they'll be discussing the outcomes, evaluation, and innovative approach they used in communicating with the public through this project. And Professor Dr. Guse is a research professor at the biology department at LMU and at the Center for Organismal Studies of the University of Heidelberg. She has a PhD in molecular biology from the University of Vienna and brings valuable expertise in endosymbiosis, immunity, metabolism, and adaptation to environmental changes through symbiosis. Meanwhile, Dr. Stephanie Guse is a freelance artist and designer addressing societal issues by various artistic means. She studied fine arts and graphic design at the Braunschweig University of Fine Arts and at the Stadtschule Frankfurt am Main. She also completed a PhD in philosophy of art on collaborative drawing as a means for social design at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. So without further ado, let's welcome Professor Dr. Annika Guse and Dr. Stephanie Guse as they share this project insights.
Thank you, Paulina. Thank you very much. Thanks for this very nice introduction. And yeah, on behalf of my sister, I would also like to thank you guys who showed up here today, even if we are a small group. I think that's cozy. And so since we are such a small group, feel also free to interrupt us if you have any questions or if anything is unclear. Steffi and I, we will split the presentation. I will start and then she takes over at some point, and so that we both get to present specific parts of the project. And yeah, so since Paulina has introduced us already so nicely, let's see, this slide is almost obsolete, but yeah, as Paulina said, so I'm based here in Munich in the Biocenter, and I'm a molecular biologist in the Faculty of Biology. And I work on coral symbiosis, and Steffi is, yeah, today and in general based in Vienna and is a freelance artist and designer. And yeah, we are both very happy to do this here for you. So since early childhood, we are both really big lovers of the ocean, and we spend lots of our family vacations at the Mediterranean Sea. And we, and as everybody else is aware of, the oceans in general have like very important functions. So they're climate stabilizers, they are important carbon sink, they support the livelihood of millions or billions of people, and they harbor lots of biodiversity. Yet oceans in general are threatened by pollution, by overfishing, by acidification, and all of these things. And because this is such an apparent problem, the United Nations has started the Ocean Decade from 2021 to 2030. And they asked this question, like, how can we actually move from an ocean, or the ocean that we have, which is greatly threatened, to the ocean that we want? And what they mean specifically here is that we should be looking for sort of transformative and actually science-based solutions for like more sustainable development. And the key here is that we take the public with us. So like any kind of solution should be widely accepted by society, because otherwise change will just not happen. And so with our project, the Vamos Symbiosis, so the overall mission or the goals that we have is to reconnect humans to the sea through arts and sciences. And yeah, just alongside this big goal of the UN, we would like to contribute to change, inspire change towards a more sustainable future. We have a couple of specific goals. So we would like to explain modern ocean science and make it visible to the public and show how it actually connects to our lives. We are interested in highlighting the amazing ocean life, like the biodiversity, the beauty, and so to trigger sort of a more emotional connection and fascination by the oceans. We are also interested in innovate educational tools and also generate like novel ideas, maybe or solutions that haven't been thought of for more sustainable economy at the Mediterranean Sea. And so we carried out a pilot project, which was last year. It was for 3 weeks, September, October in 2021. And this pilot project we specifically carried out in a city in southern Spain. It's called Águilas. It's in the region of Murcia. And Steffi and I, we know it very well because this is where we spend our summer holidays since we were basically born. And so the region of Murcia is very well known for being a big area for agriculture. So lots of the vegetables or so that we get at Aldi or wherever, especially the cheap vegetables, they come from that region. There they have these gigantic areas under plastic and really thrive on agriculture there, although it is actually a very hot and dry region. It's actually a climate change hotspot. So Águilas in the region of Murcia, it's considered a climate change hotspot because of this, this increase in being so dry. And the current economy based on agriculture, as I was saying, and then also fisheries, is actually in the long term not really sustainable. It's a small town, it's 35,000 inhabitants, but it's a fully functional town. And the economy also, of course, they have lots of tourism in the summer. Overall, the ocean literacy is relatively low, and there are also these frictions among stakeholders. So, for example, the people working in like diving or fishing industry have frictions with the people from agriculture because of all the plastic that then with the wind goes into the ocean, and the other way around. So there's lots of like problems and different viewpoints. So we chose this as a model city, and apart from having these features, the other things are that the city is actually very welcoming towards these approaches. So they have the goals to increase ocean awareness and marine protection. They also would like to build bridges between the community as the basis for more sustainable development, and are interested in developing completely new concepts. So this all for economy and tourism and so on. So this really goes well in line with the goals that we have. So we worked there in the city last year in a very diverse team. So we were more than 40 people, 40 to 50 people, students and professionals and local. And just as a couple of examples, so it was really a diverse assembly of people, from actors, from the film industry, from performances, dancing, illustration, fine arts, as well as different types of sciences, biological science, molecular science, and marine biology, but also social sciences, anthropology, philosophy, historians. And so really, really eclectic group with very, very different expertise, and also at different levels of their career stages and age groups. And so with this group there on site, we followed a general principle. So we call this principle sort of experience, understand, and create. And so when we talk about experience, what we are thinking of is that experience encompasses everything, like experience the ocean through diving, through snorkeling, through boat trips. And this was sort of our main endeavor, really experiencing the sea. But of course, also talking to the locals, going to the markets, and just being part of the city. And we think that this experience, the experience or experiencing the underwater world is really the basis for sort of this immersive learning, and also shared experiences also form or build bridges and create empathy for different viewpoints. So this, in addition to the experience part, another important part is understanding, and understanding through, for example, talks, presentations, conversations, exchange of information in all sorts of different ways is really the key for science-based solution, and also gaining sort of like insight and breaking the barriers between disciplines, really trying to start to understand each other across these different disciplines. And the third component is the creation. So experience, understand, and create. And with creation, we mean that it can be data collection, but it can also be the creation of a performance, of interventions, of art pieces, of science knowledge. It can be all sorts of things. And the creation part is sort of important for forming the basis for new ideas for like a healthy ocean and more sustainable development. And to make all of this happen, we used a couple of techniques, and I would now hand over to Steffi, and she's going to explain you more about how we work there specifically.
Yeah, apart from coming together at a common space, we thought that we need some methods to work together, because it's always the biggest problem. It's nice to meet interdisciplinary, but there has to be sort of a method or a structure in getting together. And I just want to point out two ways here. The biggest and the most important thing, I think, was thinking hands. It's a method that we developed since 10 years now. And it's a collaborative drawing process, which helps to overcome this interdisciplinary barriers between the participants, and of course language barriers or barriers of age, because you can draw when you're 5 and you can draw when you are 50. That's no problem. And so we could come together this way. Regarding afterwards, the participants thought that this was the most important thing to gain ideas, because some of the key ideas were visualized during this processes. Sometimes we even just recognized it afterwards, not right in that moment, but there were ideas for the scientific world as well as for the arts and art projects. So this is the one process. I don't want to go into detail here, because the thinking hands story would be a talk on its own, but just to point out how this might work. Another attempt was we established the so-called veranda talk. This meant that we had 2 swings in our campus, and every night an artist and a scientist were invited to meet there for a private talk. We just captured it by audio files, and so it was not public. They haven't been watching during this process, and they started a conversation. And the conversation always started with what was the most interesting or important thing today. And I can give one example to make it more visible. For example, a scientist said, okay, while diving today, I found an old shoe in the ocean. And I brought it on the boat, and I really liked it for some reason, though, of course, I know it's polluting the oceans, but I like the shoe. And then the artist, who was a designer, said, oh, that's very interesting, because I spent my day walking around the village looking for shops where we can put our posters for our events. And he really liked a shop where he found some very expensive sports shoes. And so they started a shoe conversation, and they developed an art intervention together, and said, okay, it would be great to make an exhibition of the shoes we found in the ocean in this very nice and fancy sports shoe shop. So this could be sort of an attempt how to or show how what kind of ideas might emerge out of a conversation like that. So yeah, the next slide, please. What is it? Ah, yeah. And another thing that is important for us was to design our common space. We had this nice cultural center in the city, but we developed a special design for it that provided more outdoor spaces, because it was great to work outside, but you need shaded places. And the designers from Berlin who helped us with that designed flexible furnitures, for example, for the thinking hands process. You could move the tables around and had these flexible walls where you can put all the results on. And they designed different stages, small ones. Some are very high, like you can see on this one picture. So you could change your perspective while watching something happening. And of course, you could use the stages for little talks, even for the public, as well as for our participants internally. And yeah, it provided the veranda talk area as well. And okay, and exhibitions. Yeah, Annika, exactly. When after describing the whole setting, now we show a little video. It's just 5 minutes, so you can have an impression what happened then actually at this place.
Hey.
I think there's a profound connection between life in the sea and humans. Every second breath you take is actually being produced, the oxygen in there is being produced by algae that live in the oceans.
One single organism, one single species of those that you are missing can completely change the field or completely change the future of society. This is a superpower.
The power of merging science and arts is, I think, that you get the toolkit as a scientist to express the mysteries of life in a completely new dimension.
So this project aims to combine science and arts in order to transform our relationship with the seas.
We know nothing about half of the diversity of the life, more than half of the diversity of the life.
It's been estimated that only about 5% of the oceans have been mapped. 5%. A planet that is primarily water is ludicrous.
So for me, it was also the realization that with my hardcore science that I do in the academic context, we produce very interesting data, but we do not necessarily reach people. And there's so much data out there telling us what we need to do in order to fight climate change. Therefore, I think it's apparent that these days we need to work together in a bigger interdisciplinary team to look at these more global big problems from various angles and pool expertise.
And this is, of course, an experiment that has very rarely been done, but where I feel that this will only be beneficial and be very fruitful for understanding how we as scientists can communicate this message to other people, to other scientists, but also to politicians, for example, and to people making policies about how to protect our natural worlds.
When an artist looks at an apple and a scientist looks at an apple, it's the same object, but they're going to extract different information and interpretations from that. So I think that these are slightly different interpretations of the universe. They're both valid and they are actually self-referential. So why not actively try to integrate those fields much more than traditionally has happened in the past?
We're bringing people together from very, very different disciplines, I think, professions. All of them are not used to draw.
And it's not about doing a nicely done picture, but to say something. We are talking about the same questions over and over again from different angles, but it's something totally different when you put it on paper. You have to be more precise and you have to get down to the core of it.
It provides new avenues of things that we can go. So we can go actually farther. So the same field can go to a certain point. By combining with another field, you can always go farther. And I think that's extremely important, because the farther we go as a society, the better for us in the future.
I think the future of the project is bright. I think this year was already very successful, and in the long run I envision to create an institution, a think tank, where people meet on a regular basis to work across disciplines.
Our focus would be combining it with arts, but of course we are interested in other institutions who combine it with journalism, for example, filmmaking or philosophy. So I'm very open to that, and I would like to establish a very complex educational system with all these aspects.
We bring international students that are immersed early on in their career into multidisciplinary approaches. They will learn how to interact and communicate and work across disciplines, and I envision this to be the future leaders of our societies.
I think that the more we learn about disease, and I mean everything about disease, from the microscopic to the macroscopic, the sharper the urgency will become on trying to preserve the only planet in the universe we know harbors life.
So after we saw now everything about the setting, I would like to give an example what kind of results we had. And this is an example which started with an interview or many interviews with fishermen from Aguilas, from the local place there. An anthropologist did several interviews with these fishermen. And the collection of interviews was illustrated by the team of illustrators that you saw in the film as well. And they illustrated the stories that they found in these interviews. For example, down there on the left side, you can see a fisherman who lost his boat, and even lives of family members during a storm. And these illustrations inspired another participant who is an actor, and he felt reminded of the famous novel The Old Man and the Sea. And then he decided to produce a collage, a text collage, between parts of the interviews and parts of the famous novel. And this is important because the fishermen said that they don't want their interviews to be published because they were talking about fishing quotes, for example, from the United Nations, and restrictions from the government, and they don't want to have it discussed on public. And but when we established this this collage, it sort of melted into something else. It started to become an artwork, and on the right side you can see that we had a reading on stage with two native speakers, because the whole thing was in Spanish, and one of the guys read the interview part, and the other one responded with parts of The Old Man and the Sea. So this is one way how artwork emerged in this process. And yeah, please, the next slide. And to give you an overview about the results, there were so many various varieties of results. For example, ideas for further exhibitions, like on the left side, where you see this idea for an exhibition where the plankton is very big and you can move through it. or a book that will emerge will be published in spring next year, Hello Plankton for children, and yeah, diverse exhibitions, even the exhibition at the LMU. But that's not all. So it's just a little glimpse into the varieties of results. And yeah, the next slide, please. And as far as this talk was titled with lessons learned from the project, I thought I might say something about what I realized during this whole process, because it's so great to have all these artworks afterwards and all these new ideas. It's sort of like a big album or portfolio, but always the question arises, yeah, what does really happen afterwards? What does really change? Is there something afterwards? Is the city another city after we did the project? And with this pilot project, I would definitely say they liked it, but it didn't change that much. It takes much more than just do science communication and to visualize our findings and ideas. In fact, what would be really important is to establish a participation between scientists and artists in the long run, and other disciplines, and the public, and the government, and so many other institutions, the business world, whatever. So in fact, what has to be done is to create a joint spirit for people to change something. And I think this is where the power of art is, in fact, because if you produce artworks, this in the long run will become the culture of the people, like we meet in the theater, we meet at the movies, we meet at concerts. And so this really influences people's way of thinking and their mind setting, because it touches them emotionally. Apart from the pure science communication, which is still delivering a certain information, which is very important, then you can get it intellectually. If you want to change the way of your behavior, it has to touch you emotionally and be integrated on another level. I think this is one of my personal lessons, what I saw, and the power of images is a very big one, and this is why it's so important to visualize and perform scientific findings and our way of behavior. Yeah, and exactly, yeah. Okay, next step.
Exactly. So yeah, and in addition to that, we also think it's very important to keep on integrating or trying to integrate that into our disciplinary education, because often the academic education is so isolated and they only learn about this topic. But in order to actually change the mindset and allow the interdisciplinarity, we should start early with the teaching or within the teaching. And one thing that we tried was sort of teaching module last year. We called it Discuss and Communicate Biodiversity. It was actually a 3-week program where in the first week we had a researcher who writes field guides and works on biodiversity, not at academic level, but like really in the real world. And so the students learned about all different ecosystems and biodiversity, and also why it is important to talk about it and what's the philosophical or the beauty of it. And then we also had invited speakers from the art world, from the social sciences, and from other disciplines to spark the students' interest. And then we also helped them to start to create their own outreach format for basically popularizing a specific ecosystem. So they all picked an ecosystem, and then they had these final presentations where they could also invite their parents and their friends. And we had like a fashion show about deep sea animals. We had sort of a spoken word poem about the kelp forest. We had like digital art of like marine lakes, or also like a self-composed tiger meditation and so on. And it was actually very inspiring to see that also biology students are really craving sort of for working in these different ways. And so this is also now showcased in the Bio Center. And this is just like one other idea on how to involve students and the next generation basically early on. And with this, we thank, of course, all the participants and everybody who helped us. And then Steffi and I are also, of course, happy to now take the questions or start with the discussion. Thank you so much.